All right.
Now you're in trouble. I mean,
What?
now you're in trouble because she's not necessarily run the show. So
I know.
I'm thrilled to be joined with Jaylene here, and we're going to talk about the product showcase.
Yep.
We'll quick, stay connected. If you're listening in, tell us where you're from. I want to know. I mean, I'm based here in Hawaii. Jaylene, you're there in Charleston, one
South
of those
Carolina. Yep.
South Carolina. I,
You got
I, I I hesitated there. So in the chat, let us know where you're from. Let us know if you have questions. I think you know both of us. I'm head of CX. I sort of lead the product build out and some of the ideas behind it, bring it to life. And this is Jaylene. She's been working with us for about a year, a little more than that, actually,
a
a
little
little
more
more than
than
a year off and on for some things. And we're happy to have her on the team joining us today. And we'll be talking about some of the product enhancements that we made. I've sort of split it into two parts. I've split it into sort of some feature upgrades. And then the second part, I've split into sort of some big applications that we're rolling out. Some that you may have seen in parts before, but really looking to enhance those and bring them to life for you here today. So
You might even get to learn a little bit more about some personality characteristics about us.
yeah, that we'll save that for a little bit. um, so I'm going to run through just a few slides here, just so you can see what we're going to talk about, and pay attention during the particular time of the feature of interest for you. We've just really had a great year in rolling out some things. We rolled out a custom metrics grid, which was part of our custom metrics measurement tool, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. That rolled out last year. We added some enhancements to the grid. We've added manager product search and functionality. We made some great improvements in the Canvas API, so the responsiveness of data is much faster, much better. We included a custom scoring screen. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. No longer do you have to depend on the CSAT variable or the NPS variable for your benchmark metric. You can actually leverage any variable within a matrix, for example, a matrix grid. So this one, everyone, as soon as I say survey shell for JavaScript scripting, I mean, people like eyes glaze over, and it's actually pretty powerful. So we'll talk about that and what it means. It really helps you personalize the surveys, whether it's via email or via anonymous token, and then relabeling of reporting filters, and then Arabic sentiment analysis. I know that's going to only apply to about 2% of the population listening today, but globally, it was very important for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part, I mentioned 2 product applications. Now, we talk about closed loop feedback. We often talk about it in the context of tickets, inner loop, as we would call it, if you understand the broader closed loop feedback. So we're going to talk about the outer loop, the more strategic side of it instead of the tactical. And then we're going to talk about our new platform called Reputation, and that is going to be a lot of fun.
I am very excited for these two personally.
So outer loop, as I mentioned, it's going beyond. I mean, we talk about detractor alerts, custom alerts, CX tickets. It goes beyond that. It's taking those root causes and really building plans around them. And we were just talking in our panel discussion about where programs fail, and it's like you fail to act on insights, and that's where programs fail.
Yeah. So when it comes to closed loop and, the inner loop features, why do I need this? What is this going to do for me? Outer loop.
It's actually going to help you grow your business, because if you take a look, I always like this one example. It's a rental car company. I rented from them every week. And one week I had a bad experience, and every week I got the survey. I was traveling same city back and forth, and had the one bad experience. I noted it. I put it on the survey and said, look, this could be improved. I want you to help your customers be better at this part. It was a one-time failure, but I never heard anything. And
Mhm.
that was, I basically got a form email that said, hey, you can take, I think it was $25 off your next rental or something like that. And it
Yeah.
was like, all right, first of all, the company's paying for my rental. Secondly, this is, like this was just a form letter. This was, so no effort on the part of the manager to recognize the fact that, hey, this is a customer that's, renting from you every week. You should probably pay
Mhm.
attention.
Yep.
So this happened for probably 12, 14 weeks after that. I just decided I'm going
Oh,
to put the
wow.
score and then put a negative score in and see if someone was going to contact me,
Mhm.
because I never heard back. So I kept doing it, doing it, doing it. Never heard back from them. So I just gave up on filling out the survey, because all I kept getting, I probably had, a dozen or so $25 coupons, but I never heard back from anyone.
I'm
And
gonna
the
need the
problem
name
was,
of this company.
I'm not, I won't disclose that. But I mean, so it was just one of those situations that um, you know, they were doing closed loop. I don't think they were doing it
Mhm.
correctly. But if you had seen those piling up, if you had seen complaints about the same thing over and
Mhm.
over and over again piling up, that's when you can take a broader action.
Mhm.
So it really benefits the company not just to respond to individual alerts, but to look at the root causes behind those alerts and say, we can fix something here. I mean, it might be a payment process, it might be a service issue that's systemic across the organization because the tools aren't there. So Outer Loop helps you discover that.
And so, with most organizations, there's always like a sense of hesitancy in bringing in new features or new products. How would you say the challenge for implementing Outer Loop would be for an organization?
Well, the great part is it's already integrated into our QuestionPro CX platform. All you have to do is in our menu, and I'll even show you how to get there. But all you have to do is jump there. I think the bigger challenge now is advocating for that change, which
Yeah.
means you're going to need to assign a team. You're going to need to bring those teams together, and they're going to be cross-functional. If you
Mhm.
have a problem with a payment system, you're probably talking about bringing in IT. You're probably talking about bringing in finance, probably talking about bringing in someone from sales, all together in one group. And these are groups that don't often work together.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, well, hey, sales and marketing. Yeah, they work together quite a bit. We know that in our organization, and most organizations they do. So it's that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool.
So this is a quick look at the screen. We'll get into that in detail. This next one, probably my favorite slide that I've seen this year, uh, without a doubt.
I love it.
So we've rolled out CX Reputation,
Mm.
and it's really, I mean, this is, I really want to do some research on this. How many people really just aim for those? When you're reading reviews, how many aim for those one-star reviews? And literally, I mean, this is so me. There could be thousands upon thousands of five-star reviews. The first thing I do is like, oh, let me see. Let me see what went wrong in the
Mhm.
experience that I can chase down.
So, with reputation, just because this is a new feature, is it doing just that, focusing on your reputation, what's being said? And then in terms of it, why should my business use it?
Yeah, it really it focuses on. You're right. It does focus on sort of the broader conversation out there.
Mhm.
um, there is conversations going on beyond your CX survey. And I mean, let's face it, you cannot control those conversations. I think there was I believe it was Chris Berman on Sports Center used to say, you can't control them, you can only hope to contain them.
Mm,
And that's true in sports, but it's also true when it comes to social reviews.
mhm.
And like I said, so many people will just jump in and start reading these reviews. And if you're not part of it, if you're not responding to these reviews,
Yeah.
good and bad, it's gonna make people think twice about using you. So the business can really benefit because you might have people that just jump because of the one or two bad reviews that seem to everyone upvoted or stick out or something like that, but at least you have the chance to respond using reputation. And first part is awareness that someone said this. The second part is now taking action on it, and that's
Okay,
where reputation will help.
so fun question. Do you look at the 1 reviews first or the 5-star reviews first?
I absolutely look at the overall score and then click on the 1-star reviews. That
Me,
is
I'm like, straight for
that's
the
my
1.
process. It's yeah, I mean, if there's an overall score of 2.5 on a 5-point scale, pass, move on to the next one. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
bye,
it,
next.
swipe left or right. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like, let's move to the next
Yeah,
one.
I think it is
Now
left, I think.
now I'm gonna focus on something. I mean, I'm gonna look for someone that has at least a 3.5 or higher, probably a 3.8 or higher,
Mhm.
out on a 5-point scale. And then first thing, right to the 1-star reviews. Let's see what went wrong. Because if someone has a terrible room or whatever, I
Mhm.
want to know that. So, a couple other things. These are some forward-looking things, and I want to highlight them because these are some things that are going to be coming up in this year. We're really working on a really enhanced view for closed loop feedback. We already have a terrific ticketing tool that allows you to get notifications, work the tickets within our system, share them within your CRM, even share the worked ticket within your CRM. But we want to make sure that we enhance it and bring the best to life in how people read it. And that sort of corresponds to what we're doing with our mobile app as well, really streamlining it for the purposes of the field team. There are mobile apps out there for CX that, for whatever reason, they load a priority matrix into a mobile app, and I'm like, hey, let's pick up my phone and try and see a little priority matrix and make my decisions. No, that's like the wrong approach from my point of view. That mobile app is really for those teams that are in the field that have to work
Yeah.
with the customers to be able to
Mhm.
quickly jump on things. I mean, imagine a customer's walking out the door and responding to a survey, and as soon as it responds, you're notified that, hey, they had a really negative response. You can get them before they're in their car
Yep,
and
yep.
be recovering it. So we want to streamline the app, make it easier, sort of really focusing on the key points there, and then be able to respond within it. And then the last thing, I mean, we're constantly enhancing our dashboard. So we're going to add some features to some of the widgets as well as add a few new widgets in this year. I mean, we do that just about every year. So when you talk priority matrix, go to your desktop dashboard to look at those. Don't try and look at them on the phone. But so those are some of the big things that we'll be rolling out this year.
This is all exciting.
So with that, I didn't want to spend a ton of time in slideware, as we call it. So we'll show you how it all works, and hopefully I'll show you correctly.
And you guys get to enjoy some cute cats and doggies.
Exactly. Exactly.
I have 2 cats, but I'm a dog person at heart.
I have a dog, and I'll just leave it at that. I grew up around a lot of animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats,
Mhm.
um, and the one thing I always said, it's like having another child.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's why I haven't gotten a dog yet because I'm not ready for that responsibility.
A lot of
Like,
commitment.
I don't wanna walk you. Sorry.
All right, so I'll jump in here. First thing I mentioned was the manager and product search functionality, and this is a pretty simple one. First, I'm going to go to our customer experience suite. Um, and within the customer experience suite, it's in the admin tool. And really, as businesses grow, we recognize this. We already had search functionality within segments. I mean, you sometimes have hundreds of branches. So being able to quickly go in here for managers and products and do that as well. And products is really a unique feature here at QuestionPro
Mhm,
CX, mostly because you can use it for beyond products. Sometimes the product variable that our customers use are for employees, so that
mhm.
they can get employee level information. And in a B2B space, that's pretty common because the people that you're sending out there are really the ones that are, the customers are clinging to, whether, sometimes it's as a financial advisor, sometimes it's as your customer success
Mhm.
agent. So it really, we've made it really easy. So when these lists get really large, you can actually just come in here, and I'm going to type certificate of deposit. This is a sample from a a bank that we put together, and as soon as I type it in, it filters it down. So it's really simple
Mhm.
to execute and roll out. It's on all of the DCs now, so it's available to everyone.
Love that. And then in terms of looking at it from a branch perspective, the
Mhm.
search, you can kind of break it down to whatever you need, whether it's branch or a location or whatever the segment may be.
Correct.
Cool.
You can really shorten it very easily.
Get very hyper specific, people.
Yeah. The next one I was going to talk about, and this is, like I said, as soon as I say survey shell for JavaScript scripting,
Yeah,
everyone's
that
like,
just sounds
oh wow.
difficult.
So, traditional programs, you have a lot of information that's being passed in. Well, if you're sending out emails through QuestionPro, you're probably loading up an FTP file on a regular basis or using APIs, and you're pushing in a lot of information just so you can customize the experience. Well,
Mhm,
now we're going to make it so you don't have to push in so much information, but really the bigger benefit is you can better customize surveys using what we call anonymous tokens. Now,
mhm,
anonymous tokens are called that because you don't know who the respondent is when they click on that link.
mhm,
So we offer these links, and all they're tied to is your reporting segment. It might be your bank branch, it might be your store branch, it might be the division that they work with in the B2B organization.
mhm,
So when you click on that, all that you know about this customer is that they got this link from that branch. And I'm gonna highlight this information here and show you this. Uh, we store a lot of information about that branch. I mean, you can
mhm,
store the segment name, the location, address, city, state, country. If you need any external additional information, such as their specific website, all of that information is stored. But previously, if you wanted to include that with the anonymous token, you basically had to sort of write custom code into the anonymous token just to get that to happen. So within that, we can really go in here to the survey, and I'll just pull up the example here. It's just a line of code just to be able to pull out, hey, here's the address. So I
mhm,
now can include the address in here, and if I go to my anonymous token and deploy it, all that information shows up right here. And so it says, hey, would you like feedback on your Allentown branch? Instead of
love
just
that.
instead of just a segment sitting in the background, you have the Allentown branch, you have the address. Any of that information that you saw in the segment is
Mhm,
available here.
yeah. Do you have any unique user cases for this, or use cases?
Yeah, yeah. I think a couple of them. There's a basic one. I mean, we have a retail store that has an open link. They have the
Okay.
same link for everyone. So as soon as we don't know where that customer is coming from. It's
Mhm,
just, they could have gotten it from the website. They could have gotten it from anything. And the first question we ask is, what location? Well, now that we know your location, we
mhm,
can route you right into a survey. So it's tied to that branch, and then tie all that information, be able to ask all those questions. I think the second one, I'll mention, our team at AutoX here has
mhm,
something called
mhm,
Dealer Pulse,
mhm,
and within Dealer Pulse, you're able to basically anonymously assign a lot of information to the person who's entering the customer information. So
yeah,
the process goes: there's an employee at a dealership that enters the customer information, and then that customer gets a survey as a result of that.
yep,
Well, we were using, I think it's 10 fields that we were asking that dealership to enter. Because of this survey shell, we are now able to reduce that down to 4, and these are 4 that we're never going to know. It's going to
mm.
be customer email address,
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be the brand of vehicle they purchased, and the date. And it's so simple now for the dealer to deploy that. So it's a pretty unique case because it's really taking burden off the employees, but the employees are thrilled with it and they're getting more feedback
Yep.
because now they don't have to be burdened with, oh, I need to know what our external review website is. I need to
Mhm.
know I need to know the email address of the person that's going to respond to a hot alert, things like that. So
Yeah.
it has really simplified it for them.
Dang. Also, I think with the dealer posts, what I think is really cool is the ability to kind of spot check an issue before it becomes an issue at,
Yeah.
like, an OME or something like that.
It's definitely improved that process,
Yeah.
where the OEMs were sending out surveys longer with a longer cycle time.
Yeah.
You can
Mhm.
get back, and we talked about it in the insight when we're talking about insights in the prior panel. It's like get those insights faster, and
Yep.
then you don't have to game the score later and say, "Oh, give me a 10," or we're going
Yeah.
to lose our dealership licensing, things like that. So
But it's also, like, get the insights and then do something with those
yeah,
insights.
exactly. So the next one I was going to mention, and we're sort of going in a deliberate order here because it makes it easier to scroll
Understand.
around. But custom scoring screen. Now this one is a little bit different. I mean, we're so used to people focusing on NPS,
Mhm.
sometimes on CSAT, but sometimes you might have a grid of questions like this, where there's a whole bunch of them, and sometimes you want to include your overall. Maybe you want to include CSAT as the top line
Mhm.
here or the bottom line here, or maybe you just want to say, okay, this you know one of these is my benchmark question. So now
Mhm.
you can make that your benchmark question within here. There's a tab under settings in the survey called custom scoring, in which you can actually go in here and make this into a CSAT type question.
Dope.
So not only can you report it as a CSAT question, you can see you can also report it as an NPS question if you want to, with promoters and detractors.
Mhm.
But you can report it using those widgets that look like your CSAT widget, so you can line them up side by side and see them. But you can also turn them into a benchmark score if you need to. So here I've turned it into here's my CSAT benchmark score.
Mhm.
So that can be your score that the entire organization focuses on. And it does allow you if you jump into this, see now we can have knowledge of products and associate friendliness reported on that using a CSAT widget instead of having to use the attribute bars. So
Okay. I saw you moving your screen around and you were in a survey and you went to make a change from let's say you wanted to change it to an NPS, right?
mhm,
Does that naturally save automatically or is that something
you have to press the save button.
I didn't see you press the save button.
I didn't because I didn't want to change anything.
Oh, okay, that's what I
Uh,
was curious. Okay, good. Well, that
yeah,
also
so
allows you kind of explore it a little bit before making any
yeah,
like deliberate
it allows
changes.
you that it has that safety valve. So if you accidentally click on something and you're playing with it and it doesn't do it right, whoop, sorry. If it doesn't do it right, you can escape out of there without pressing save. So
And can you, with these questions, tie sentiment analysis to it?
absolutely. I mean, that's one of those key benefits because you
Mhm,
can take a question. I'm going to shift to knowledge of products, and then you can take and attach whatever open end to that and use that as the basis as your benchmark for the sentiment analysis. So instead of having to leverage CSAT or NPS, if you really want to get down and focus on something, particularly when we talk about outer loop, we have an example where we're talking about products.
mhm,
If that's a focus of a specific survey, then you can really set that as a benchmark instead of, I mean, it's great to capture the NPS as a baseline to compare across surveys. But if,
mhm.
if you're really focusing on a product based survey, this allows us to focus on that.
Dope. And can you have more than one sentiment allow well, ugh, my words are, like, fumbling, but you get the question.
Yes, as you saw in the tool, you can only have one benchmark question, but you can have multiple CSAT questions now, which is great.
Okay.
You can actually report across multiple variables and have them showing up that way, in which you can even see them as CSAT or top box. Top box working well because you can see the differentiation between the two.
Mhm.
But you absolutely can do this with any basically matrix question that you need to have.
Awesome.
So From there, I will jump into custom metrics. Custom metrics was something we rolled out last year, and I'll click on there first. This idea is really born out of the fact that not everyone uses CSAT, not everyone uses NPS. Some companies, whether as their primary KPI or as a secondary KPI, they aggregate data across multiple questions.
Mhm.
Um, they can be as simple, and I'll show you that the custom metric is pretty simple to put together. You create a function basically, and we can help support you. Once you know how to define that, we can help you script that in there as part of our services to you. Um, but sometimes it's as simple as, hey, we just want to take that, score and multiply it by 10. That's all this function does. Other ones are a little more complex. I'll take this attribute index, in which we're actually taking 5 different variables
Mhm.
and creating one index, and then you can weight them accordingly. These are all weighted equally, but you could
Mm.
weight one with a higher value than the other. So if knowledge of products is 20% of the rating, then you can weight it
Okay.
that way. So in this case, I've actually written 3 different um, custom metrics built out from the survey, so that when the customer is taking the survey, it's
Mhm.
automatically computing it for future reporting. Now, we had some very basic reporting tools. We've enhanced it. Um, we call it the KPI custom metric dashboard here, but
Mhm.
you can it's as simple as adding a grid. I can take um, XDay demo.
Okay.
I'll call it that. Really get in here, pick which one you want. I'm just going to pick the attribute index. I'm just going to call it my KPI, and then I'm going to average it. So that's telling it how to compute it. And
Mhm.
then I can then take and say, all right, I want to look at month, which is already here. And then I'm also going to look at, say, year to date. So you have all these options to cross tab that information. And when I save it, here's all that information. So I'm looking back 1 month. There's no scores in May because I didn't have it in May. But you can see the score, 74, and then the year-to-date score as well. So it's that easy to add a custom metrics grid now.
And I can add more. I saw that you had 3 there. So is it possible to see this with multiple?
Yeah, I have an example of that right here. Let's see, click here. You can actually have multiple
Okay.
scores on the same chart. The great part about that is you can have those comparisons. So if you do have those indexes that
Mhm.
need to be compared to each other, and you can even have more than one custom metric widget
Yeah.
on a single dashboard. So you can now see here, oh, here's a trend of one of those 3 measures. It's the attribute index trended across time. And I think you can trend it, a single trend, you can trend up to 20 months. And you can also have what's called a look back feature, where it looks at the last, to say, for example, up to 6 months of combined data. So you have a rolling measure
Mhm.
that you can show out there and share. So lots of different features and functions to make sure that you get the data that you need the way you need it. And then, of course, as you see, all the filters are pretty much the same, except that we do break it down on a monthly basis here, since it is a custom metric. So,
Mhm. Awesome. I like it.
yeah. Um, there is a new API environment for our Canvas widget. Now, if you're not familiar with our Canvas widget, it is a custom view of your data. It's really not intended to fill in gaps. I mean, you don't want to take, um, we don't want to take something like this chart and say, oh, I want a custom metric, but just show it so it doesn't show the responses.
Mhm.
Sort of, we're not leaning towards that. It's not supposed to be the end all, but it does require some development and ongoing support for such a widget. But we have built out several of these Canvas widgets, which are just unique to an industry or an organization. Um, in this case, we're talking about the fact that we need to be able to have a quick and easy way to filter through employee information, and not have to deal with filters and something quick and simple that you can click on it. And this is where we all learned a lot about each other yesterday as we were looking at our respective scores here. Uh,
Hopefully after today, people don't trust those scores.
but ultimately, it was really about improving speed. So if you've seen this, I mean, you can see that there's unique things that you can do in terms of hover and color coding certain responses, things like that. All of that is unique to the Canvas API widget. But now, I click on it, and that functionality was there before. But if you'll notice how fast it is now, the
Mhm.
speed in which it's grabbing the data. Even when I click off here and come back to the Canvas widget, how quickly it loads up. And that's what we've really improved upon. And so we've joked about this a little bit in that here's my empathy score, and Jaylene, there you are.
Well, at least your helpfulness went up. I've been helpful this whole time.
Yes, but apparently we have to work on our empathy.
And
So
my listening skills, but
yeah, no, I'm surprised I scored as high as I did on my listening skills, but this is just a terrific way to quickly show that information, and now the
yeah,
speed is just amazing.
super smooth.
Now, this one, I mean, this is recent. I mean, this is so recent here that this feature that we're rolling out, it rolled out on Sunday, so I had to quickly pivot and turn and make sure that we had information on it. As you'll note up here, we have a bunch of filters. You can get filters from custom variables. You can use questions from a survey to map for a filter. But we've always had some standard filters. Those standard filters have shown up there. They're segment. Well, we have the date filter, which is a standard filter. There is segment,
Mhm.
which sometimes is considered branch, location, store. And then we have what's called product variables. Those product variables, as I mentioned before, are sometimes used in really varied ways. We can't get away from the name product variable because I think we've just been using it so long that we call them products now. But sometimes people, the product variable gives you the ability to have sort of a matrix lookout when you're talking about your standard segments and the reporting that you see on the dashboard. Well, we
Mhm.
have that branch, those branches that branch out, and you can say, okay, here's your locations and here's how they report up. Well, products span that entire group. So you could have an employee, say, in a bank branch that might work two different bank branches in a given week. So there's a way to use that as a product variable and say, okay, Jaylene works in both bank branches. Man, I gotta work
Yeah,
on that tongue
it's
twister
spilling
there.
onto you.
Um, and so you've got to work on, if she works in the two different locations, but we need a roll up score for her, we can put her in a product variable. Well,
Mhm.
we don't want to call Jaylene the product. She's an employee. So you can actually come in here and change those labels in here. You can say, instead of segment code, you can call it branch. Instead
Mhm.
of product, we can call it account type, or in this case that we were talking about, employee.
Mhm.
We can talk product group as business group because people use those names differently. And then the other key feature here is you can actually turn those off. So that when you go back here and you look at the analytics, they're not showing up anymore. You see those two have disappeared. And so it was something that those variables are not always used. So sometimes it's a good idea to turn them off. And so that really was helpful there.
Yeah, I agree.
So on to the bigger applications.
Yes.
Outer loop. Um,
Speaking of outer loop, actually, we have a question.
yeah.
Are both outer loop and reputation features part of the QuestionPro CX management platform?
Wow. That is a great question and a timely one.
It is a
Um,
time.
because I'm about to switch over to outer loop. You'll see I'm in the CX platform, and when I come up here to what we call our product switchers,
Mhm.
and I drop down on customer experience, you can see reputation and outer loop right
Oh,
there. They're both part of the customer experience platform. You should be able to access them. Um, and so you can just click on it right there like that. And I see another question has come up.
yeah.
So, why should I add outer loop to the mix? It does leverage your customer experience programs, and as I build out the one of these initiatives for you, you can see how you can leverage um, not just any of your feedbacks that you have here, because I'll go back into this one. But you can leverage your feedbacks, but you can also leverage our NPS Plus feature for your root causes, which is just a really add on to this to
Mhm.
really help you focus. So we built this, as I mentioned before. We need to solve more than just the one-off problems. We can't just
Yes.
spend the time. I mean, if you have every customer complaining about, hey, the credit card payment system on your website is horrible, you need to take action on it. You can't just call them
Yeah.
up and say, we're sorry, every time it happens. It will drain your resources, and customers will still be unhappy, especially if you don't listen to them and fix it. So this is about building out initiatives across the organization. Um, and the great part is, as I mentioned, we can build them out based on root causes. I'm going to go ahead and click on something here and try and build it up. We can build them out based on root causes. So I can pick a survey and some of the root causes that come up, or we can build them out, really just based on anything that's happening within the organization.
Mhm.
So it could be related to the feedback. You could create a separate feedback and just, create all these initiatives. It doesn't have to be tied to a survey. It should be tied to improvements within the organization that you're trying to evaluate, coordinate, and have some success.
Mhm.
You can build an unlimited number of initiatives. I mean, we tend to talk about unlimited a lot. I mean, we talk about unlimited surveys, unlimited questions, unlimited segments,
It's better to
unlimited
be
dashboard
unrestricted.
users. Now you can build unlimited, in addition to the unlimited feedback folders, you can build unlimited initiatives
Mhm.
within our outer loop tool.
Mhm. And this really, I feel like this feature specifically definitely speaks to the trend of what we've been talking about all day
Yeah,
in kind of really recognizing what's happening within your customer communities and taking action on that. So I think that in and of itself is definitely,
exactly. I mean, we want to make sure that we're going beyond listening and
yeah.
being, shall I say, empathetic, I guess
Yeah.
is the right word, to
Yeah,
the
I
customer's
guess.
needs.
What is
And
that?
what is that? I mean,
I
we're
don't
apparently
know.
unaware of that. But being empathetic to those needs and making the changes, because if you're saying, "Hey, I'm opening up a listening post,"
Yeah.
you better listen to the customers. And this is a way to build upon your listening and actually take the action. Um, and it's again, because it's all tied back to your customer experience program. You can see it's tied back to the metrics there, the root causes there. So I mean, I'll walk through one of these initiatives. You can build the owners, you can build the contributors. I'll open up with one of these here.
Is
You can say who's involved, all that.
I'm assuming there's similar to how you can have unlimited initiatives, you can kind of have unlimited or is there like a number on the users, the people involved?
Yeah, there is no limit on the people that you
Love
involve, and
it.
in fact, you can involve teams. You'll always have one owner for an initiative.
Yeah.
There's there's a simple case study in business that says as soon as you have two owners, nothing gets done. um, and
Yeah.
I can talk about that in terms of I know businesses where they have two owners and nothing gets done, or if you have something as simple as a task, it's like,
Mhm.
oh well, I'm going to hand this off. I'm just assuming Jaylene's going to take this, and Jaylene's
Yeah.
sitting there. I'm assuming Ken's going to take this, and so you do have the one owner for accountability, but you
Mhm.
can include an unlimited number of people, and you can also tag teams that need to be involved. So if you need to tag your finance team, if you
That's
need to
really good too.
tag your product team because
Mhm.
there's an issue with the website showing certain product prices correctly. Hey, you can involve both of them, and you can include as many people you want, and you can add on it later. And so it really is comprehensive for the entire organization. They don't have to be in the CX platform. You can add them as a user specifically for this.
Yep, just the benefit.
Yep.
Okay. Um, so oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, please continue.
So once you have the initiative, you can really set up a work plan. You set up a series of tasks, and this tasks can be building. You can add a new task even while you're moving forward. This screen is very easy to look at.
Mhm.
You can say, okay, here's the Here's the different phases that we have, the checkpoints as we call them. You'll see the summary here. You'll see any comments. You can add comments broadly speaking here.
Mhm.
And then of course there's the tabs across the top that we have, such as huddle, metrics, activity, and overview.
Can you go into what the huddle is a little
Yeah,
bit about?
yeah, absolutely. Huddle is the idea that you can sort of keep track of the conversations that are happening.
Mhm.
Um, people together. I mean, I mean, we all have these collaboration tools now. So,
Mhm.
pull people together and say, hey, we haven't talked on this. We just need 5 minutes. You don't have to pull the formal meeting, but hey, and maybe it's you, me, and we're going to pull in John and talk about something really quick. You can record the notes here. You can say, okay, we met on this date.
Mhm.
Um, and discussed huddles. So hey, why not? Um, so if you had teams there, it was
You would select the people.
you select the people. If you had team support, then you can save it, and it's there, and it's recorded for all time. And the other part of this is we can say, are things going the way we want them to? This is
Mhm.
sort of the subjective view of things. We have an objective view that you can take, but from a subjective view, you can actually change the health and say, well, we're sort of we're missing on some points. We don't have the right resource. We need whatever it is. We can say, okay, here's some of the things that have to happen. It's really a good way to, I'll call it, there's two health measurements that we have, and you'll see that in the screen
Mhm.
when we talk about the initiatives at large. But there's so much more here in terms of being able to look at the activity. I mean, you can see an entire history of from inception to where it is now. Even the little, hey, we changed it from past
Mhm.
good. And then be able to take a look at the overview.
Perfect. You beat me to my next question. So yeah, I need to see each of those.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's say I'm at my company. I've made 1,000 initiatives, and now I'm just over like run with initiatives. What do I do in that
Well,
situation?
there are two steps that we can take here. First step is really organizing them. We have what's called lanes. We have these lanes built as years based on when they started. You can build lanes based on, is it a product? Is it a
Mhm.
finance? Is it an in-store frontline issue? Is it a corporate issue? Is it a distribution issue? So you can create all these lanes. Sometimes you'll have those that are active. Sometimes you'll say inactive. And then of course we have the
Mhm.
third category, which is celebrate because you closed it out, you did the activity, we're
Yes.
done. But there's as I mentioned before, you can actually see the status on them. There's a little exclamation point here, or the red
Mhm.
one. That means it hasn't been worked in, say, I think this one, it's like 1 week, or this one's been 15 days. You can actually set those settings here in the settings feature. And then you can see, the health, the mood of the program, the objective. So I say this is the subjective, the objective, and the subjective together. You're seeing it all at once. But when you look at this one view, hey, you're seeing it one way. But we have different ways that you can look at it. Of course, you can take and say, okay, here's a list based on those lanes, so you can get into the detail. But this is probably one of my favorite views. Because you're talking, when you set up that initiative, you can talk about the impact and the effort associated
Mhm.
with it. So you can actually see how many initiatives you have in each quadrant or
Mhm.
straddling the line of a quadrant. And then if you have more, if you want to see the details on it, you can say, okay, these are the ones you're working on, and you can click right into it. So really a lot of ways to help you organize and keep
Mhm.
it straight. You can also look at progress. So you can see, hey, um, these ones were doing terrible,
Yeah, I really
no
like this.
progress, but at least we made some progress in one. So
Mhm.
you can actually see the trends and what's going on with those trends within that. So and then there's just the basic list view. If you just need to say who's the owner, let's see who's owning it. And so hey, we have two without an owner, so we now have a new employee that can take those over. Let's assign those. So being able to look at them from all those different perspectives really helps with that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was pretty I think that was pretty in depth.
Yeah. Um, Well, the last thing that I was going to show, we have something called, well, I should show the administrative tools, but I'll start with the backlog. You mentioned thousands. I hope we never get to thousands, just because
Well, it
sometimes,
happens.
sometimes focusing on too much lets you focus on too little. But we also have a backlog rather than having to provide all the details. But if you have an idea that's hey, I think there's something that we can do with our store cleanliness. So
Mhm,
let's tag it, let's type it here, put it in a description, and then we can save it. And it shows up in what we call the backlog here. These are just ideas where people can go in. I can say, hey, this is a good idea. People can vote on it. So you can actually start to see like, hey, these are some ideas that, maybe they didn't show up in the root causes. Maybe they haven't been prioritized at this point, but
mhm.
now we can prioritize them because we're seeing people saying this is a good idea. Um, and then there's some other little features um, that we can talk about, like the administrative features. Really, I'm sorry, the settings features, where you can define your lanes, define your checkpoints, and as I mentioned, I have the
Mhm.
warning set at 1 day, not 5 days, but you can set your
Yeah.
warnings up so across that entire feedback, you have a way to track an approach that's consistent and measured. So that's sort of outer loop for you. So with time on my mind, let's move to the next application,
Which is
reputation.
yay! So obviously, I love all things marketing and social media and CX, and listening to and I've again expressed this so much throughout today, especially after Dana's conversation. But it's incredibly important to use the power of your community because they can help promoters and they can help detractors. And I feel like this is going to do all that for you.
Exactly, and um, customer experience. I say it over and over again. Crystal made a point in our last session. She was talking about customer experience. It always gives shout outs to workforce and research.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
reason for that is customer experience is more than just our surveys about a transaction. It's all of that. Customer experience starts at the very beginning
Yep.
and goes right to the point where a person won't consider your brand anymore for whatever reason. Sometimes
Mhm.
they age out. Sometimes they just say, I'm done with you. I've had enough. And sometimes, it's just it's no longer a product fit for their needs. So but
Mhm.
this is, so many people interact with social media now. They interact with these brands, and if they don't have an outlet such as a survey, hint, hint, you should always have a customer experience survey, but to give feedback. But if if for example I didn't get a survey that time, who do I talk to? I mean, they've made it. If I wanted to just complain about something, calling a phone number is not going to do anything for me. So sometimes I feel like, hey, I need that attention, and they feel like they need to express it, whether
Mhm.
it's a good experience or a bad experience. Just bringing that experience to light, and people seem to focus on those negative reviews. But this is also a way. I mean, I look at that 4.6. Oh, that's a good score.
Oh,
Okay,
this
let's
is
see.
great. Let's
There's,
go.
there's 582 5-star reviews. What am I going to do? I'm going to look at those 20. But more importantly, it's a chance to respond, both good and bad. You can respond. You can say thank you to someone for giving you a positive review. That enhances that experience even more. That you listened and you cared enough to listen. So and then when we're taking a look at this dashboard, you really can, it's a quick overview. You can see, hey, things are trending up and trending down over time. We never like to see the trend down, but we'll get there. But you can, it's just a quick snapshot and overview, the overall ratings accumulated across all these different review sites. But
Mhm.
more importantly, you can get down here and look at some of these trends with regard to sentiment.
So what if I wanted to look a little bit more into that
uh,
sentiment?
yes,
Give me all the details.
not only do we have those trends in here that you can see on your
Mhm.
dashboard and sort of a ratio, but you can really get into some of the details and some of the topics that are teased out
Mm.
through that sentiment and be able to look at, hey, here's all those comments, the total number of comments mentioning service, product attributes, things like that. you also have the positive and negative broken out, and then you can even drill down into more details about things. So, when you talk about something like, let's go to product attributes here.
Mhm.
When you talk about the usability and functionality, how strong it rates on that, and you can see how many people are commenting on it. So you can really get down and drill into some details. We talked about it before, turning these into insights,
Mhm.
so that you can help your organization improve for the customer. So if we started to see something like functionality start to trend towards negative comments, we know that we have to make a change, or that a change has been made that has been negatively impacting something. So, that really is an opportunity to improve for an organization. And then again, we can get down to another level of detail, and I'm just going to click on here, this second tab here, where you can actually get into all the reviews and
You
look
get
at them one by one. Um, the thing that I'm drawn to immediately as I see this is it's reply. You can reply right then and there.
Well, that's
Um,
really helpful, actually.
yeah, you can. There are some sites that won't let you reply outside their site, so you
Mhm.
can take them and it targets them right to that particular review, so you can reply on their website. Much like a ticket, you can say, okay, this is new, active, or I've closed it out, I've responded,
Mhm.
whatever it is. You can assign it to people. Again, just like you saw before, there's not a limit on the number of people you can assign it to. So
Yeah, I mean, if you have a social media person, you can just kind of assign it
yeah,
to them, right?
add it to their list, and then of course adding tags. I mean, how
Mhm.
how important is that to be able to filter through this? And when you're starting to search, and we have a tag search here, being able to filter through that list. And so the other thing, there are some where you can actually reply inline. So this is a response on the Google Play Store. I have no idea what that says, but you can write a comment right back to them from the website, never even leaving our reputation website. But
Mhm.
we also have templates where you can say, hey, thank you so much for your response. We're really glad you're positive about what we're offering. And so you can do the reply just there. And so I sit here and I'm looking. I know we're running short on time here, so
Yeah.
I just um, one of the things, like I mentioned, you have templates. You can come in here. You can create your own templates
Mhm.
right here. You can add as many as you want, unlimited. We love that.
Unlimited tags?
We have so many integrations that you can use. We have some standard integrations, including with QuestionPro, but and then if you have something like review trackers, you can pretty much integrate with so many organizations like that. So the integrations are there. So we're really happy with this. We're really pleased with what's come about from it. And like I said, if you really want more information on this, you know, we're happy to talk about it.
Definitely. Feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I literally just a few keystrokes away. Today is not my day for speaking.
Yep. And so I think we answered all the questions that came in, but I know I really appreciate everyone sticking around. We're really happy to talk to you more about this and answer your questions, and how the combined programs can help your organization. So Jaylene, thank you so much for joining
Thank
today.
you.
I really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you, everyone.
Thank